I wanna be the very best, like no one ever was. To catch them is my real test. To train them is my cause. Pokemon, gotta catch 'em all. It's you and me. I know it's my destiny. Pokemon, oh, you're my best friend in a world we must defend. Pokemon, gotta catch 'em all. A heart so true. Our courage will pull us through. You teach me and I'll teach you. Pokemon, gotta catch 'em all. Gotta catch 'em all. Pokemon.
Hello, Home Slices, and welcome back to Sup Media Reviews. Season 2 is here, and we're kicking things up a notch. We're diving into music, TV, and movies from over 20 years ago, plus we're kicking off a brand new YouTube series that's going to bring even more fun your way. This season is full of fresh reviews, special guests, and plenty of laughs. Ready to jump in? Let's get into this week's episode. What's up, Home Slices? Thanks so much for tuning into Sup Media Reviews. I'm your host, Kiara, and I am stoked to review the 1998 film, Pokémon, the first movie, Mewtwo Strikes Back. The movie features the Pokémon trainers and the foes that we love, like Ash, Brock, Misty, and Team Rocket, along with some of the most beloved Pokémon from the first generation. Now, I remember Pokémon rising to popularity when I was in elementary school, and I consider myself to be a fan, but not necessarily a super fan, so I had to get a person who is a super fan to join me to discuss all the lore behind this movie and to help identify all the names of the Pokemon that I have forgotten. Okay, so I have my husband Calvin here to help me. Say hi, Calvin.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, I'm so happy to have you here. For those of you who have been following Sup Media Reviews, Calvin has actually only joined me for one other review when we reviewed Major Pain together. So I'm excited to have Calvin here because he's a true Pokemon enthusiast. He is a Pokemon card collector and even started his own YouTube channel called Calvin the Collector, where he opens packs and offers advice on getting cards graded and very nerdy stuff. So if you're into collecting, you should check it out. And please note that the channel is currently under hiatus, but there are videos there for you to check out and see if that's your jazz, okay? Now, Calvin and I have done some Pokemon exploration together, like of the universe. That sounded kind of weird and sexual, but we...
Throughout the games.
Yes, we played Pokemon video games together. So as you probably know, Pokemon started releasing games in tandem at some point. And so Calvin will get one game and I'll get the other. So we played Sword and Shield together, and we also played Scarlet and Violet together. So we have played Pokemon video games together. Calvin is way more into it than I am. I basically beat the game and I'm good to go. I like to raise my Pokemon organically, so I don't give them candies or nothing. We have very different approaches, but it is still very fun. We battle together, we battle each other. Calvin typically beats up on me in the game because Pokemon are really good. So we just have a good time, and I'm really happy that I get to share this moment with him as we discuss this movie. So I'm happy to have him here to add more color to the discussion because there are nerdy things that I don't remember from 1999 because I wasn't as involved as he was. So you all will see what I'm talking about a little bit later. But let's go ahead and jump in with a fun fact about this movie. Now, according to what I found online, the Japanese version of this film has a different storyline than the US version. The Japanese version's Mewtwo is actually shown in a more favorable light, feeling like it has no place in the world and so it wants to earn its place. But the English dub, which is the version that we watch, opts to make Mewtwo an emotionless tyrant who wants to destroy the world, a decision that both fans and critics criticize. In hindsight, the producers according to my research, felt that they actually made the wrong decision in changing the kind of motivations behind Mewtwo. Even still, the film was the highest grossing anime film at the domestic box office in the US and Canada for nearly 30 years until it was finally surpassed by Demon Slayer, the movie, which came out this year, 2025.
Wow.
So, Calvin, did you know any of this?
No, I did not know they had an alternate storyline like that. Also, I didn't know Pokemon was the longest grossing anime film until recently. But that doesn't surprise me because of the worldwide popularity Pokemon has. So that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's really interesting that it held the record for so long, like literally until this year. I think that's very interesting and kind of fantastic. So yeah, cool beans. Well, if you want to check out Pokemon, the first movie, Mewtwo Strikes Back, too many words. But if you want to check out the movie, you can rent it on YouTube or Amazon as of the recording of this episode. It's just a little $4, okay? Now, let's move on to talking about the kind of cultural significance and personal connection that we have to Pokemon. Personally, like I said, I remember being maybe in first or second grade when Pokemon kind of broke out. It was a big deal. I remember back then battling with the actual cards was more of a bigger deal. Again, I was a fan, but I was kind of on the fringes. I didn't really watch the cartoon. That kind of wasn't my thing back in the day. I played a little bit of the video games as a child, even though I technically didn't own them. I had a cousin who had them and I would play his game every once in a while. I had a book that had all of the stats and info of the first generation Pokemon. And I maybe knew the names of maybe like the top 20 most popular ones. But it wasn't until Calvin encouraged me to get a Nintendo Switch to join him in playing Sword and Shield that I ever owned a video game that I played all the way through and eventually beat. So I like the Pokemon universe. I think it's cool. I think it's fun, but I'm not really super absorbed into the whole Pokemon universe. So for me, I'm just like a fan, on the fringes, and I will get a Pokemon's name wrong and have no shame. Now, when it comes to cultural significance, I will say Pokemon, like you said, Calvin, is world freaking wide. Like it's everywhere. There's Pokemon Go, there's cartoons, there's card collecting where there are cards that are worth millions of dollars that exist somewhere. And like very serious collectors have, 7-figure collections, maybe more of Pokemon cards. There are plushies that you can get. Like it runs the gamut. TV shows, movies, multiple generations of pocket monsters, like they're everywhere. So it is a really big deal. It has been around for over 30 years now. And
30th anniversary is coming up next year. Side note.
Right. It's a really big deal. And overall, like, it's kind of crazy how much of a big deal it is. Calvin, what about you? Like, tell me about how you got introduced into Pokemon. What have you partaken in when it comes to the Pokemon universe overall? And what do you think its kind of cultural significance is?
So I grew up with two other brothers, and we lived for Pokemon when it came out when we were kids. We would actually set alarms to get up Saturday morning to make sure we could watch the episodes when they came out. So we were like locked in for real. And then at that time, we started getting into the cards. Every, so often our parents would buy us a pack of Pokemon cards. So we just started kind of collecting over time. And we pulled one of our first holographic cards we pulled was a Moltres. And my brother Andrew actually stapled it to the door, and we were so mad at him.
He stapled holes in it?
Yes. He did it just because he wanted to look at it every day. But as collectors, we knew, you wanted to take care of the car, but he wanted to actually appreciate it and look at it every day. And so that was his way of doing that. So yeah, we were very upset with him about that. And then eventually, as the game started releasing, we started getting the Game Boy Colors, and we eventually got some of the first Pokemon games that came out. Andrew wasn't big into the Pokemon games, but me and Patrick he had the blue version, which is one of the originals. So it was blue and red. And then I had the yellow version, which is one that came later. In that version, you could actually get all three of the starters. But in the first versions, you could only get one of the starters, whichever one you picked.
Okay.
So that was fun. Up until, I'd say, when we got a little older, Pokemon kind of fell off until I think the start of COVID around 2020, 2021. People had a lot of time on their hands, not much to do. And so Pokemon really made a strong comeback. And that's actually when I got back into the hobby towards the end of 2020. And I kind of started collecting again. And then eventually I started my YouTube channel. And yeah, so it's been a fun journey. And I even was able to get you on board and we played games together. So that experience and share my enjoyment of the hobby with you as well.
Yeah, I think Pokemon is super fun. It's such a big deal. We did try to do Pokemon Go for like a little while and I was like so over it. I was over it. Yeah, but overall, Pokemon is a worldwide phenomenon and I'm really excited to talk about Pokemon's first movie. And I love how literal the title is. Like it's literally Pokemon, the first movie. It's hilarious. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into it. Now, the movie opens with the creation of Mewtwo, who is a clone of the very rare, elusive, and powerful Mew, which is supposed to be this ancient Pokemon, okay? Mewtwo awakens inside a remote laboratory in the middle of the ocean, and he instantly becomes aware that he is merely an experiment. And if he sticks around, they're just going to experiment on him more. And he's like, nah, I ain't having that. So he uses his psychic abilities to destroy the lab and everyone in it, which is pretty dark for a children's movie. We just presume that everyone kind of dies in the explosion, which is kind of crazy. And then Giovanni, arrives back to this destroyed island, who I wasn't aware, but apparently is the leader of Team Rocket, arrives to take advantage of Mewtwo's power, offering partnership in exchange for helping Mewtwo hone his powers. So Mewtwo was like, okay, sure, let's be partners, okay? So he wears the specialized armor. He starts training in battles with other strong Pokemon like Onix, a herd of Tauruses, Alakazam with the spoons, Magneton. Calvin says it's pronounced Nidoking. Is that right?
Yes, it is. You got it.
I think Nidoking is better, but and Arcanine. So Mewtwo realized that he's being used again and basically sees Giovanni as his oppressor when he's like, okay, cool. Like I'm using my powers, but what was I made for? That's a very Barbie thing to say. And Giovanni was like, you're made to be my slave. I'm your master. You're going to do as I say. And again, Mewtwo was like, nah, you said partnership. You tried to trick me. So Mewtwo breaks free. He blows up Giovanni's house and he sets off to determine his purpose, which is very interesting because to me, he has this dual purpose that doesn't really necessarily, these two things don't necessarily have anything to do with each other. One side of the purpose is he's having an existential crisis. Why am I here? Self-discovery. What's my purpose? And then the other part of his mission is like, I'm going to destroy everything. Everything sucks. I'm the most powerful Pokemon in the world. This world should be mine. And I'm like, those two things kind of don't go together. This is something that I think was kind of lost in translation, probably from the Japanese version. So already I'm not feeling that. Okay. But meanwhile, Ash, Misty, and Brock are enjoying a chill picnic on the coast when a random trainer named Raymond picks a fight. He literally is like, I want the smoke. Where is Ash? And Ash is like, I'm hungry, but I'll fight you.
I heard there's somebody named Ash Ketchum here. Is that right?
Yes. He just came, he was set tripping. He was like, hey, where your grandmama stayed, let's battle, cuz. So Team Rocket, of course, is there watching alongside as this battle happens. And we'll get a little more into that lately. So yeah, Mewtwo is aware of his existence. He refuses to be treated like someone else's science project. And now he's going to make that everybody else's problem. Okay.
You know where they went wrong?
I'm listening.
They gave him great powers and the psychic ability, right? But they also gave him like a 200 IQ. And so he was smarter than everyone else in the room. So had they left that part out, I think they would have been okay.
Maybe. That's very possible. Yeah. Calvin, tell me, what do you think about the opening of, this movie and everything that we talked about so far?
Sure. So I agree. For Pokemon, it was a little dark at the time, but the fans really liked it because we hadn't really saw that side of Pokemon yet. And so it was like, oh, wow, this is different, but this is kind of cool. Let's see where this goes. Because everything, like if you watch all of the anime and the shows up until then, everything has been, there have been a few episodes with some dark moments, like Charmander, who evolves into Charizard later on, almost died because his trainer neglected him. That's probably one of the only other dark moments in Pokemon, but up until this movie. And so the fans were kind of here for it. Now, in the fight that we're about to see, where old boy calls out Ash looking for the smoke, this battle is probably unrealistic. Ash would have gotten stomped in the mud just because the Pokemon, what was his name again?
The trainer's name was Raymond.
Raymond's Pokemon were all evolved, or mostly evolved, and they were much stronger than Ash's base level Pokemon. So Ash would have been stomped in the mud in real life.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. So in the Ash versus Raymond battle, Raymond brings out Dauphin, and Ash's Bulbasaur goes up against Dauphin. And so, Calvin, can you tell us a little bit about Dauphin? Because Dauphin actually is not a Generation 1 Pokemon.
So this was actually really cool because up until this point, we've only seen 2 other Generation 2 Pokemon, which is Ho-Oh, who shows in the opening credits, and then Togepi, who Misty has with her on her side. So this is the 3rd Generation 2 Pokemon we saw introduced in the movie. And so fans kind of didn't know who this Pokemon was just yet. So that was really exciting. We knew that the Generation 2 was on its way, but we just didn't have a list of the new Pokemon just yet.
Okay, that's cool. Well, this Dauphin actually gets beat up by Bulbasaur. But then we also have Raymond's Machamp versus Ash's Squirtle, which you also said was pretty unrealistic.
Yeah, no. Squirtle would have been Turtle Soup. But Champ...
Not Turtle Soup! Calvin, his name is Donphan, Calvin.
Donphan, okay, I'm sorry. Forgive me.
Okay.
Machamp has to be at least like level 37, 38, because you have to have a Machoke in order to evolve to Machamp. Choke usually evolves right around 37, 38. Bulbasaur has to be at least level 18, 19, because he hasn't evolved into Wartortle yet, which is usually when he evolves into Wartortle.
So this is Squirtle versus Squirtle.
Yeah, Squirtle. Yeah. So Squirtle hasn't evolved into Wartortle yet. So he at least has to be 18, 19. So that's like 20 levels on him right there. There's no way Squirtle's going to beat Machamp.
Oh, goodness. And then the last kind of section of the battle, Raymond sends out 3 Pokemon, Pinsir, Venomoth, and Golem.
Golem, yeah.
And they all face off against Pikachu. And what are your thoughts on that battle?
So, Pikachu sends off what we presume to be a Thunder Strike attack, or Thunder, and kills everybody, or just beats everybody in that battle. First issue with that, Golem is Rock. Rock is unaffected by electricity whatsoever. He wouldn't have even been phased. Venomoth, sure, he would have took a good hit. So, okay, yeah, he's down. But Pinsir also would have had some resistance as well. So he probably wouldn't have been instantly KO'd either. But, Pikachu's the mascot, so we're going to make him look good.
I guess so. So this is Calvin's...
Rules are out of the window.
Yes, this is Calvin's official breakdown. Like, it's very funny, like, sports commentator as we were watching. Calvin was like, there's no way Squirtle would have beat Machamp. Like, it was very funny to see. Yeah. But overall, my kind of thoughts are, I mentioned about Mewtwo having this kind of dual identity crisis of like this righteous, like not wanting to be an experiment or not wanting to be enslaved or controlled, but then also immediately declaring himself superior to everyone else.
Right.
Those things just kind of don't gel for me. We also have Giovanni, who claims to be the benevolent mentor, but actually wants to control and enslave Mewtwo as well, which I feel like is actually like true to life. There are a lot of people who pretend to want to attach themselves to powerful or talented people when they really don't mean them well. So I actually like that aspect of the movie. Also, let's talk a little bit about Team Rocket, because we do see Team Rocket kind of spying on Ash and his crew, and apparently they are looking for rare Pokemon that they can bring back to Giovanni. But of course, their kind of Team Rocket mascot is Meowth, which is the only Pokemon who can technically talk, even though we can psychically hear Mewtwo. Meowth is the only one whose like mouth moves and you can actually hear him say something besides his own name. He also has a weird accent. I don't know if it's like New Jersey, which is very interesting. I'm not sure why he has that type of accent, but he's also comic relief. And so we have Jesse, we have James in their cool outfits with their cool hair, and we have Meowth. And the funny part here is Meowth is like, dang, I'm hungry. I want some of that, stew that Brock is making. And Jesse's like, hey, I'll cook. And he was like, last time you cooked, I lost 8 of my 9 lives. I thought that was so funny.
Please no.
I thought that was hilarious. But they are here. They are doing Giovanni's bidding, which if you didn't know that prior to watching this movie, you wouldn't know, because Calvin had to tell me that they worked for Giovanni. And I was like, I had no idea.
In this show, if you follow the show, it would have made more sense.
Right.
But yeah, they're part of the Team Rocket henchmen who Giovanni sends out.
Yep, good old Team Rocket. They are bad at their jobs, and they're always chasing Ash and his friends. And Meowth, of course, is there to make people laugh. So yeah, cool beans. All right, let's move on to like the middle of this story where things start to kind of pop off a little bit. We have Mewtwo, who is now fully committed to being a villain, even has an evil lair in the middle of the ocean now.
What do they call this evil lair?
The New Island.
New Island. Like, that is so unoriginal.
It is unoriginal. It's really... they could have called it the Mew Island. I don't know. Anyways, so he sends out a drone, which is actually like a pharaoh wearing a camera around its neck to find different Pokemon trainers that he can invite to the island to battle against and assert his dominance. But the drone, you know, shows Ash doing that battle that he was doing. And so he gets a hologram invite that's delivered by, what's the name of the Pokemon? Was it Dragonite that delivered the invitation?
Yes, Dragonite.
Yeah, that Dragonite reminds me of like the Dragon Tales dragons. But he gets this holographic or hologram invitation where a lady dressed all weird and whatnot is like, hey, come battle. We about to do a battle. Come on, come to the New Island, you know, so you can be trainer number 1 or whatever. And so it's a secret location. They need a ferry to get there, blah, blah, blah. So to ensure only the strongest arrive to this island, Mewtwo whips up a full-on hurricane, which unintentionally kind of awakens the real Mew, who is just chilling somewhere, and he floats off to kind of investigate. Now, when they get to the ferry station, the ferry is shut down because of the storm, and a handful of trainers are like, nah, I'm about to go, okay? I'm gonna brave this storm, okay? And they use their Pokemon, while Team Rocket, who are aware that this, you know, training situation is going on, but don't have an invitation, kind of have to sneak their way onto the island. So they, in a really kind of weird scheme, dress up as Vikings, saying that they're going to bring Ash, Brock, Misty, and their Pokemon over to the island. Chaos ensues because this boat cannot survive a storm like this. And the storm kind of reveals that Team Rocket is cosplaying. The boat gets overturned and they have to get creative with how to finish the last leg of the trip. And they end up using Squirtle and Starmie to get them the rest of the way. And so when everyone ends up reaching the island, they discover that Nurse Joy, which is a person that we had heard earlier in the movie, had been missing for a while. She had been kidnapped and brainwashed into serving Mewtwo. So she was the lady that popped up on the holograms. Back at the ferry station, there were 2 women there that were saying, if you see her, let us know where she is. They also gave us this weird backstory about some type of prophecy about there being like a major storm happening, or a storm that happened previously that like hurt a lot of people, and then Pokemon tears brought them back to life. And we're like, girl, what are you talking about? But it does come back. It does come back later. Now, in the New Island, or on the New Island, this villain reveals his master plan. Basically, Mewtwo wants to overthrow the human Pokemon dynamic because he views it as, you know, a slave master dynamic, and that these Pokemon who have worked with, partnered with, served with these humans have actually disgraced themselves, and that basically they don't deserve to live anymore. Okay, so he wants to create a superior clone society, and to prove his point, he just starts battling, you know, some of these trainers. He basically destroys multiple Pokemon. He says he's the ultimate Pokemon trainer, and they're like, how can a Pokemon be the ultimate Pokemon trainer? Like, that doesn't even make sense.
Absolutely.
Right. But he does eventually unveil his own clone versions of legendary starters, which include Venusaur, Blastoise, and Charizard, but they all have unique coloring so that you can tell them from the kind of normal OG versions. So this is setting the stage for a showdown that challenges what Pokemon training even means. Okay. So Calvin, what do you think about this? Does Mewtwo have a point?
So the premise that the Pokemons were slaves, I could see that in some instances. You have some people who are malevolent and they don't have good intentions for Pokemon. But overall, the majority of the Pokemon community usually is like a friendship / partnership. So the Pokemon and their trainers work together, get stronger, and they look to overcome other gym challengers or the gym leaders to prove that, hey, we have the best partnership, we have the best teamwork. And so that's why we're the greatest duo. And so it's more of a collaborative effort than this is my slave and he just does what I tell him to do. So Pikachu actually stood up for Ash and was like, hey, yeah, we're actually friends. And then Mewtwo's like, what do you mean you're friends? He's like, yeah, that's my homeboy. We ride or die for each other. And then Mewtwo's like, you're silly. Get out of here.
Yeah. I love the way that you put that. I think that there's nothing that I can really add to that. I love you saying about we have the best partnership. We work the best together, and that's why we're the best. I love that idea. I kind of view Pokemon similar to like domesticated animals, like a dog or like maybe a seeing eye dog or a dog on a farm. Like, these are parts of our family. Like, yes, they are performing tasks, or yes, that they are providing joy for our family, but they are a part of the family. They are not just here to do our bidding, you know? So I enjoy that comparison. Yeah. I mean, first off, Mewtwo's lair, supervillain realness. Very
super dark and dank and
Yes, crazy. The storm as an entrance exam, like like the first test, and only 4 trainers make it there. We talked a little bit about the fairy worker's prophecy. It feels so out of place. It's one of the weaker points in the story. Yeah, it's a little weak for me. I like Mew. Mew is kind of flying around. It's like fancy free, very pretty. I love Mew's energy, and it's very interesting in contrast to Mewtwo's energy. I also want to add that, like, go ahead.
I was going to say, Mew also was like, I ain't no Mewtwo was attacking him, and Mew was like, hang on, buddy.
We're not there yet.
So I'm sorry.
We're not there yet. Mew is just kind of flying around, messing with people at this point. He's not engaged in the action just yet. So we'll talk about that a little later. Okay. Okay. So I think Mew was adorable and amazing. Okay. Also, kidnapping and brainwashing Nurse Joy for like a decent period of time, to the point where she had missing posters up.
It was at least a month.
And then him being like, I don't need you anymore. Gross. That's crazy.
Here, humans, you can take her back now.
Right. I do want to talk a little bit about those other trainers who showed up to the lair. We have one named Corey, who had his team included Pidgeotto, Scyther, Hitmonlee, Venusaur, Sandslash, and Rhyhorn. I think Corey's team had the best variety. When I train my Pokemon in the Pokemon game, I prefer to have a team full of variety. I know that there are trainers that enjoy a specific type of Pokemon. I believe that you should be diversified, because while I prefer water Pokemon, I almost always choose the water starter. My whole team can't be water because water has weaknesses. So you got to diversify the same way you would do a stock portfolio. So Corey's squad to me feels the most diversified, and I kind of like that. Now,
absolutely.
Right. So Fergus is a water specific. So he has Gyarados, Vaporeon, Golduck, Nidoqueen, Syndra, and Tentacruel. So he's all water everything. And then we have Nisha, which I think is a very black lady name, but she's not a black lady in the movie. She has Wigglytuff, Rapidash, Ninetales, Dugong, Vileplume, and Blastoise. So she does have a few different types, but maybe it's not as diversified as Corey. So those are the Pokemon that are all there. And that doesn't include the Pokemon that are with Ash and his crew. So with them, we have Pikachu,
Squirtle, Bulbasaur, Charizard. Brock had Vulpix, and Misty had her Togepi and Golduck with her, and Starmie.
Yeah. Yep. So those are all the Pokemon who are there. So we have about 25 Pokemon that are all here on this island. And yeah, things are about to pop off. So Team Rocket is approaching as well. They have to find a different way to get in because they end up getting locked out of the island. So we'll see what happens to them a little bit later. And Mewtwo reveals himself. He's very dramatic. He comes down, just floating in a light, introduces himself. This is his first public appearance because Mewtwo was just created. Nobody knows what Mewtwo is or anything along those lines. So this introduction is basically like, I'm here and I'm taking over. And it's kind of crazy. So yeah. Oh, and he wants to start over with only cloned Pokemon so they don't have the memory of being disgraced to be slaves. So, yeah, he's taking over. All right. So let's move on to the closing or the climax and closing of the movie. So Ash basically challenges Mewtwo and he's like, none of this is right. You're very wrong. This is not how our relationship are with our Pokemon. I'm going to prove it. You're not the best Pokemon trainer. Let's do this. Ash never backs down from a challenge. Okay. So he challenges Mewtwo to a full stadium showdown to prove that the bond between a trainer and their Pokemon actually means something. It's not looking good though, because Mewtwo has those clones that basically demolish their OG opponents.
Yeah.
Which are from multiple trainers, including Ash's Charizard.
So they've been juicing. They've been taking the PP ups and the proteins. That's a deep cut in the game, if you don't know.
So, in a crazy turn of events, Mewtwo was like, I win, your Pokemon belong to me, which is not how Pokemon works.
Right. I beat you, I take your Pokemon now.
Which is crazy. And so he sends out these specialized Pokeballs that basically capture every Pokemon that's on the island. And these Pokeballs can even capture other Pokeballs, which is basically like a nesting doll Pokeball, which is kind of funny.
Yeah.
Now, Pikachu is not an inside Pokemon. He don't do Pokeballs. So Pikachu is running for his life. He's running. He's shocking the balls so that they fall away, but then more of them come and try to grab him. He ends up falling off of this platform or whatever and ends up getting snatched up. But Ash is right on this ball. The ball is floating towards this machine that is going to clone the Pokemon. And what's interesting is that the machine is doing that thing that happens on a TV show. It's like, what's that Pokemon or whatever it is. And they show the silhouette of the Pokemon and you have to guess who. Yes.
That would pop up during the anime commercials of the actual Pokemon series.
Right. Yeah. Which I thought was cute. I actually recognize that. But essentially, the cloning machine gets activated, but Ash is fighting with it and it actually kind of short circuits the machine. The machine has already effectively cloned all of those other Pokemon that were captured in those Pokeballs. But because the machine has short-circuited, the OG Pokemon have been released from their Pokeballs. So now it's just double the Pokemon everywhere, right? And so Mew shows up, saving Ash from a harsh fall after Mewtwo attacks him. And he floats in like this little playful pink deity, and Mewtwo becomes obsessed with proving his superiority over the original. This big battle erupts, not just between Mew and Mewtwo, but also between every clone and their Pokemon counterpart. So it's original versus sequel, okay? It's brutal. It's exhausting. They're slapping the mess out of each other. The humans are really impacted by the sight of brother fighting against brother. And we hear a corny song in the background about, why are we fighting, brother? Like that. I hate that song. I hate it. The violence escalates. We see the most kind of impactful one was of Pikachu, where he is taking a pacifist approach and allowing the clone Pikachu to just slap him back and forth. And the original Pikachu is just turning the other cheek each time. And he's like, just tire yourself out hitting me. It's kind of sad. They're crying. All the Pokemon are worn out from fighting each other. And right as Mew and Mewtwo are about to do the ultimate kind of power-up showdown where their two, force fields meet each other, Ash throws himself in between them and ends up turning to stone from taking the hit from both Pokemon. Now, the stadium is in heartbreak. Okay, Pikachu runs over and tries to do Pokemon CPR, Pokemon defibrillator.
Hit him with the defibrillator.
Right.
Give him 10 jumps.
Trying to shock him back to life. And of course he starts crying. All the other Pokemon start crying. And those Pokemon tears that we randomly heard about earlier in the movie come back and they actually revive Ash. It's not ashes to ashes and dust to dust anymore. Ash is back to life. Okay.
So he got reverse Medusa.
Yes, whatever that is. Yes. So that fulfills the prophecy that we heard earlier. And so realizing the true power of life and compassion and all that stuff, Mewtwo abandons his conquest. He basically learns that maybe there is something to this partnership. Maybe there is more than domination being, my purpose. And so he and Mew take the clones to begin their own lives elsewhere. He erases everyone's memories of the event and he leaves Ash and their friends back at the ferry dock. So it's almost like none of this happened. The storm is gone. Did they still learn the lessons though? Like, are the lessons erased too? Who knows? Ash spots Mew in the sky, but he can't be sure. And it confirms that like maybe everything wasn't forgotten. I don't even know if they learned their lesson or not, but yeah.
Well, really, the lesson was more from Mewtwo than the actual trainers, though.
Okay, that's pretty good.
Because most of them had a good heart going into it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was just more for his peace of mind, if you will.
I think that makes sense. Yeah. So, Calvin, what do you think about the ending story? The big battle with everyone and, Mewtwo's kind of final realization.
Sure. So after they inadvertently turned Ash to stone, you can kind of see Mewtwo have this epiphany, like, oh, this human's willing to sacrifice himself for his Pokemon. Maybe I got this wrong. And so he has to have this internal reassessment, if you will. And then he actually has a change of heart, and he sees that, hey, these Pokemon actually care about this trainer too. They're all in tears because he just gave up his life to protect them. So, okay, let me reassess. We're going to take a step back here. I'm going to take all the clones with me. You guys, we're going to reset you, put you back where you were, and then we'll see if I can figure this thing out again. So essentially, he's like, we're going to do a take two here. So I thought that was an interesting standpoint. I think Mew did a really good job of showing Mewtwo, even though you have all the superiority, it doesn't make you any better, if that makes sense. You're not better, you're different. And so Mew did a great job, especially being the OG. Mewtwo thought Mew was just going to be like a little punching bag. Mm-hmm. But Mew was like, nah, buddy, you came for me.
He stunned him.
Yeah. And so, especially because Mew's real humble too. And so, that also will play a part on your psyche.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I think that was a great synopsis. Yeah. I mean, for me, there was a lot of cool things that kind of happened in this scene. I feel like a lot of this movie is not very emotional until we get to the point where Ash gets hurt, or where Pikachu is like getting slapped around. That's when like the emotions actually kicked in. So I liked that part of seeing like Ash actually risking his life to do the right thing. And that being the thing that kind of changes Mewtwo's mind. So I thought that was actually a really good part. I feel like the clone hatching part, I don't like how they hatch out of those little tubes. I don't like that, okay?
I can see that. Yeah.
Right. One thing that I mentioned when we were watching the movie together, when Mew and Mewtwo are battling, I was saying that their energy reminded me of Aang versus the Fire Lord in Avatar: The Last Airbender. And when you think about Aang and the philosophy of airbending, it's more evasive. Aang is more playful, whereas the Fire Lord is very aggressive and like in your face, and you can see those two different styles interacting with each other. It's a really good contrast. And it was really interesting to see how everyone, even Team Rocket, were impacted by seeing the Pokemon just fighting each other for no reason. Like, there is something to engaging in a battle with like rules and understanding of like, we're not just going to beat up each other just to beat up each other. Like, we're having a good time. We're engaging in mutual combat, and there are rules. Absolutely. So yeah, I thought that part was really interesting too. I hated that cheesy, we're fighting my brother, song. I hated it. Hated it. Okay. Meowth actually had a really interesting conversation with his clone, where the clone was basically saying like, you should trust me, and Meowth is like, why should I trust you? And he's like, you know what, just because you were born different doesn't mean that we should focus on our differences. We should focus on what makes us more alike. And I was like, okay, there's a lesson in it for the children, right? Like, even though these clones look exactly like these other Pokemon, because someone is different from you doesn't make them the enemy. And so that's the required lesson for the children to take away from the story. Yeah, Ash turning to stone, that was sad, very emotional. And Mewtwo's kind of final lesson of like, it doesn't matter how you were born, but it's what you choose to do with the life that you have. I actually really love that takeaway. I think that is the overarching movie's thesis, even though his two kind of existential crisis missions weren't aligned in my mind. Yeah, we talked about the memory wiping, which I think was a little weird. Also, something I didn't bring up, I feel like Brock is a little horny in this.
So that actually was just Brock 100%. That's Brock throughout the entire series. So
okay, Brock is really into girls throughout this movie.
More so into Nurse Joy's than anything, but even though everyone looks the same, they are all different to him, and he gets the googly eyes every time.
Okay, all right, horny Brock, got it. Okay, so, and then of course we end with Team Rocket, who actually gets stranded on New Island, and they're like, at least we're blasting off somewhere, whatever. I don't really care for Team Rocket. I think they're annoying. So yeah, that's the end of the movie, y'all. At the end of every review, we ask the same questions. Does it hold up today? And is it worth a rewatch? Calvin, what do you think?
I'm going to answer the second one. Is it worth rewatch? I would say absolutely yes, especially if you're a fan of the genre, you're a fan of the actual franchise. If you've seen it before, this is just a good nostalgia movie. Brings back all those memories you had as a kid. So 100% worth the rewatch. Does it hold up today? I would say parts of it, sure. And then some parts, I agree. What you said earlier, they had a conflicting plot line, if you will. And also diverting from the original plot line was probably a mistake. So that part I don't think held up as well. And I do like what you said in the last part of the synopsis, where it wasn't about how you came into this world, but what you do with the life you have. So I think that was a good takeaway. So I would say parts of it hold up well, and then parts of it leave room to be desired.
Okay, cool. So I think this movie only kind of holds up similarly to you. And I think it might be worth a rewatch if you really love Pokemon. Okay, so this was actually my first time watching this. Again, I'm a fan on the fringes. Okay, I engage in certain things with the Pokemon universe, and it's not all encompassing for me. So I enjoyed watching it. I enjoyed experiencing the nostalgia. I forgot the name of like 80% of the Pokemon. Okay. So again, I'm an auxiliary fan. Okay. And if you are not a Pokemon lover or more of a fan than I am, I don't think this film will really hold up for you. I don't think it's a good idea if you haven't really engaged with Pokemon at all to watch this movie. It won't make sense to you. It hardly made sense to me. So or there were elements of it that didn't resonate, like me not knowing that Team Rocket worked for Giovanni or other little details. It's like really not going to make sense. So I also feel like Mewtwo's mission and villainy don't make a whole bunch of sense. So I feel like there's parts of the story that don't work well. And I'm like, pick a lane, Mewtwo. Like, do you want to find yourself or do you want to kill everybody? Like, what is it? Now, I don't feel pulled in to the story until Ash gets turned into stone, which is basically like the last 10 minutes of the movie. So I'm not as invested. So if you are a person who likes Pokemon, who is invested, who watched the cartoons, who play the video games and all that stuff, I think for you, it will really hold up and it'll be great and nostalgic for you. If not, like, chill out. Like,
oh my goodness, not chill out.
I don't think it will work for you if you don't have the background behind it. So again, and most of that I'll chalk up to the fact that they changed the storyline for the US version. So, you know, there's that. I feel like the graphics held up as okay. Like the graphics weren't super bad or ridiculous or awful. It's a cartoon from the late 90s. It's fine. I think if you're a true lover of Pokemon, you want to relive the nostalgia, for sure rewatch it. Otherwise, you can skip it. Okay. For me, it wasn't as good as I would hope it would be, but I love just diving in to something that I remember well from my childhood.
Yeah.
Okay. Calvin, any other final thoughts on the movie before we move on to the ratings?
Me and Kiara were talking yesterday. Side note, if you played the game growing up and you were trying to collect them all, it was virtually impossible unless you had a lot of money or you cheated. So
to catch Mew, you're referring to catching Mew.
Mew was not in the game by traditional means unless you were able to go to New York City and go to a convention where Nintendo gave Mew out, or you had a Game Shark, which was considered illegal, and you got Mew that way. So Mew was one of the hardest Pokemon to ever get in the first Pokemon series, and rightfully so. Mew was kind of broken. If you actually got him, he could use any move in the entire game. So kind of a cheat code in himself, but that is the extreme pay to win. So Mew is the OG pay to win Pokemon.
That's hilarious. Yeah. I mean, Pokemon has done a great job with creating some scarcity, some exclusivity around certain areas of Pokemon or with the cards, and Pokemon has just done a really good job with making people feel like they don't want to miss out on certain elements of participating and enjoying things in the Pokemon universe. So that helps explain why.
The FOMO is real.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so cool. Let's get into the ratings. Calvin, what do you think the critics and the audience rated Pokemon, the first movie, on Rotten Tomatoes?
So is this all time or when the movie first came out?
This would be anyone who has reviewed it for all time, probably.
All time, I'm going to say it's lower. When it first came out, the reviews were probably really good.
Okay.
But all time, I'm going to say the critics probably gave it, I'm going to say 71, 72. But I'm going to say the fans are still strong, and they gave it an 85, 86.
Okay, Calvin. It's way off.
Oof.
You're way off on the critics. You're closer on the audience, okay? So the critics gave it 17%.
Stop it. Haters. What did Will Smith say? Parents just don't understand.
Exactly. And the audience gave it 76, which is a little bit lower, but we kind of understand why. Like the changing of the storyline, some things in the storyline not necessarily holding up, the unrealistic Pokemon battles. I mean... I kind of get it. Now, I think this is probably the most stark contrast that I have seen between critic and audience ratings. To go from 17 to 76, I think is kind of crazy. And again, this is kind of demonstrating why I decided to start my own podcast, because when people talk about movies, they care more about production and lighting and the actual story, whereas I want to talk about the nostalgia. And when we think about these critics, they're probably not a part of the target market or the intended audience. This Pokemon movie was created for children in the 90s who cared about Pokemon. And if you are a 40-year-old man, you're not going to get it. And so your feelings of nostalgia and things like, why should they count? Like, this is for this certain demographic anyway. So I personally would probably give this movie about a 65. There were some nostalgic feelings, but there also were a lot of issues with storyline and things that we talked about earlier. So that's what I would give it. What's your rating, Calvin?
As a Pokemon fan, I would give it an 82.
Okay, 82. Got it.
Storyline didn't matter as much as long as we were entertained. We saw Mewtwo rock out, Mew rock out. Mm-hmm. Had some good battles. We're here for it.
Yeah, I hear that. I hear that. Well, all right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to our review of Pokemon, the first movie, Mewtwo Strikes Back, here at Sup Media Reviews. I want to say a special thanks to my loving husband, Calvin, for joining me today. Calvin, did you have a good time?
I had a great time. Thank you so much for having me. And I'll be looking forward to the next review we do.
Heck yeah, for sure. So I'm really happy we got a chance to talk about this film in detail, as Pokemon is something that we both share together. So I'm hoping that I can invite you to come join me later on this season to review something else, okay? Maybe we'll do a top 5 Pokemon episode. Who knows?
All right, let's go.
All right, cool.
Gotta catch 'em all.
Listeners, let me know what you think about Pokemon the first movie. Does it hold up for you? Did you rewatch it recently? Do you agree with the Rotten Tomatoes ratings? Share your thoughts on our social media pages on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Next week, hop on over to the Sup Media Reviews YouTube channel, where I and a special guest will be counting down our favorite holiday movies as a part of our new video series, Top 5. You don't want to miss it. Peace out. Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of Sup Media Reviews. New episodes drop just about every week, and our brand new YouTube series is coming your way. So make sure you follow us on YouTube, Instagram, Pinterest, and Facebook so you never miss a thing. Got a movie, album, or show you think we should review? Send it our way. Until next time, keep watching, keep listening, and just chill till the next episode.